It's a new year. 2023 is here. Putting on my list of minis. New season, let's cheers. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about the past. Time to get on the Not Your Average Joel podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Not Your Average Joel. So we are here back at the Hoover Library. Last time we were here, it was very nice and convenient and just a nice little private area to kind of talk. So we are back here, and I'm here with my good friend Devin. This is his third time here on the channel, and it's good having you back. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me again and again.
Yes, absolutely. I love having you here, and I think we have another good topic that we were going to talk about today. And it's a topic that I feel like most people can say they've gone through at some point in life. So today's topic of the day is actually going to be on bitterness. So I can definitely say I've struggled with bitterness before in my past. But there are also moments where I feel like forgiving somebody can be pretty easy. So it just depends on the situation. But I think everybody at some point has gone through this in life, and I think that this would be a good topic to talk about because if you're watching or listening to this, you may be struggling with forgiving somebody for doing you wrong, or you may just have a kind of a cold heart towards somebody, and maybe it may be something that they've done to you, or maybe something that you've done to them. So I think it'd be good to just talk about it and address it, and maybe people will get something out of this episode. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this first question. I have a few questions that I'm going to ask Devin, and I'm going to be giving my feedback as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So my first question is, when somebody does something wrong or hurtful to you, do you have an easier time nowadays, like as you're older, do you have an easier time brushing things off and kind of moving on from that person? Or do you still feel like bitterness can still be like something that you struggle with? Or does it really depend on the person or situation?
It can be both.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when you're in the moment and you're kind of bitter, it can be for 30 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be a minute, it could be any kind of time frame. And then later, maybe how your day goes, it kind of brushes off on its own. And then you're just not as mad about it. Mm-hmm. But, before I'm just like, why was I so mad about it? But then you come to the realization, I'm just like, okay, I guess I can understand why I was mad, but it's not really that serious anymore. Because you're just like, I'm kind of over the situation. But you just know to not take it not like that. It's, it's just how you take things as a person, and how you develop and mold as a person, and how you handle stuff as a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I could see how it could be both the ways, because I feel like when I was younger, I probably got a little bit more mad over the petty stuff. But then once you get older, you realize that those minor things are so little compared to the real world, and stuff that people have to go through in the real world. So anything that I've ever gotten mad over, I guess in a way, as you get older, you kind of become a little bit more humble, I guess,
and more understanding.
Things. And you try to be more understanding to the person that may have affected you in some way, or that you may have affected them in that way. So I think you're trying to look at it from all perspectives, and at the same time trying to keep your cool, and just, I guess as you get older, you become more mature, or most people should hopefully want to become more mature.
Unfortunately, not everybody's like that, and some people kind of like the pettiness, but it just depends on how well you mold into being a better person in life, and how more mature you are with handling stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. Is you definitely want to, I feel like after COVID, a lot of people tried working on themselves in different ways, have self-reflecting moments. I could definitely say I've done that, where maybe I still struggle with things, of course, since we'll never be perfect here, but, I still can look at a situation and maybe think that, I could have done better with that situation. Or sometimes, like maybe the little, I guess, the little devil that we all have sometimes may tell you, you should have said this to this person. Like, and sometimes I do fall into that where, like, I wish I did tell this person and like what I really was thinking, but most of the time that leads to regret. So
exactly.
But sometimes people think that like it would feel good in the moment to kind of like choose somebody out, but it's like usually by the end of it you kind of feel like crappy about it.
Exactly.
So, but yeah.
Just know not to be a fool and take that situation again in the same way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess kind of learning from the past, that maybe things that you've gone through, situations, maybe similar or same situations that you face.
Exactly. And then you kind of like, if you've been in that situation before, you just know how to take it better and understand it better and learn from it better.
Yeah, that's true. Because I could definitely say for sure I've learned a lot about myself, from like my early 20s to now being in my later 20s going into my 30s this year. So, I've learned a lot over just the past 10 years. And I feel like right now I'm 29, I feel like the 20-year-old me, it was like a different person than the person I am today. And I feel like most people can say that like when you're 20, like you're in that, I guess, college age, you want to like be around all of your friends and hanging out with all of them. Then like once you get older, things start changing, you start changing, and then like whether it's just your friend group or just even how the person that you are. So I think that's really good points to make. That like I think for me it also just depends on the person.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if it's somebody I don't know, that like maybe. Like I know one situation, like last year I was at Jim and X, which for people that aren't from Birmingham, it's a barbecue place here. And anyway, somebody like kept running their chair into mine, and like I kind of said something out loud and for them to get their attention, because I did it like 2 or 3 times. And he turned around and like said something to me like he said, well, if you don't like it, you can move or something like that. And I was like, ooh, like, so I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm gonna stay here, because it's like, you're not gonna make me move just because you're older and you think that you're just gonna, make it seem like I'm gonna respect my elders, which is important to respect like your parents and like authority and like your boss, but not like just some random stranger that's just gonna keep ramming his chair into my chair.
Right.
But I kind of actually had a little bit of bitterness about that, because I just kept thinking like, how, I don't know, just how ugly I can. It seemed like he was being like, he apologized at first, but then he's like, well, if you don't like it, you can just move to the other side of the table. It's like, you're really not sorry. You're basically going to say you're going to keep doing it.
Right. Kind of feel like he's going to win the situation.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, no, I'm going to stay here. I'm good. But I do feel like I did have a little bit of bitterness towards that guy, because I kept like rethinking it in my head. Like, I wish I would have said this and this. Right. But sometimes you have to pick your battles.
Exactly. Some battles are not even worth fighting.
Yeah, they're really not. So so even something like that. But like if I get in a argument with somebody that I care about, like a family member or a close friend, like I feel like those are harder to take. I start feeling like shaky, emotional. Like when I start talking, it's like it's like shit. Like I feel like I can't talk clearly because I'm like super like I'm just shaky. It's awful.
Right.
So and I feel like bitterness, I feel like can be harder to take on with those, because it's like you don't expect your family member or close friends to make you mad about a situation, and then it happens, and then you're kind of like you start questioning everything, and
right.
So it can be hard.
It's crazy because like how you were mentioning that this was somebody that you didn't know. Mm-hmm. So like from a family member, of course it can be a little bit personal, when
Yeah.
taking bitterness. But when if it's like a stranger, like depending on the situation it may be, it can get really heated. Or some of them are just not really that serious, and you're just like, I'm just brushing it off, literally. So I mean, I guess they say like don't take anything seriously unless it's like from like, depending on the situation, like especially if you don't know the person, it's not really that deep. So it's, you know, it's just a way of just the way it is, I guess. So it's just, it depends how it is. Like that's just how it is. Like you don't really know. It just depends on like how you take it.
Yeah, it's always a different level of, I guess how bitterness can come in to play.
Yeah, low, medium, and high.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it definitely with the family and close friends, it definitely is hard because, like you said, you take it personally and like
With
kind of,
family, yeah.
and almost like you feel like you got like a stab in the chest kind of thing.
Yeah, and then just like nowadays, all you see on like the news is like, you know, all this heated situation with the world and all that, so much chaoticness, and that's bitterness right there. Like this world is full of bitterness.
Yeah, a lot of bitter Bettys.
So everybody loves being petty, and you know, I mean, I don't know. It's just a sad world that we live in.
Yeah, a lot of people do like to just kind of live off of that drama and like having beef with somebody.
Yep.
It's like I can't stand it. It's like I'm ready to like to make it clean like right away.
Exactly. It's just like because you know that feeling like in your heart, and it's just like it's holding a weight on you.
Yeah.
And like once that weight kind of just stays there, it's just like you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
And that's not good for you. It's not healthy.
No, it's not.
So
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because we are going to be talking about that here a little bit more later on down. One of my questions I'm going to mention about bitterness and poison. But before I get to that, I'm going to ask my next question that I have on here. So, do you mind sharing with the viewers a moment in life where you really struggled with being bitter towards someone?
I think one of our biggest ones is like when we kind of got in this situation of being bitter with each other.
Yeah.
So it's like there were times like we were in our young 20s, and you know we were fighting, and you know I guess we just weren't fully mature with our situations, and we would take things really, really seriously, and we were very sensitive. And you know, I guess people kind of constantly wondered about like our friendship, and like even our families. It was like, are you still hanging out with that guy? Like, you know, and then you'd be the same way with your family. Like, what's going on with him? You know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just, you know, just the both of us. It's just we both kind of we've been both in that situation for a long time. But you know, where we are today is what really matters.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a good point to make, to, you know, kind of not dwell on the things that have happened in the past.
Exactly.
And just kind of move forward by knowing that, you know, we're different people now than we were in our early 20s.
exactly.
Because, yeah, like you said, we were in our early 20s. We would just take things super personally, even though, like, it was over, like, the smallest things.
Yeah.
And I could say that I was guilty of, you know, some of the falling into being, I guess, super petty, you know, like, things, and, like, just, I don't even, like, remember a lot of the situations. It's all over, like, really small things.
Stuff.
And for some reason, like, I had, like, a lot of bitterness, and I think, like, one big bitterness that I think I had throughout the 14 years that we've known each other was, I think, that period where, like, we weren't talking for, like, probably, like, close to a year. And it was over, I feel like there was somebody that came in the middle between us. And I feel like there was someone that kind of put a gap there, and it kind of caused problems. So I think it wasn't, like, fully due to us. I feel like some of it had to do with people that were in between.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe just, which I guess is kind of like a bitterness that I had for the longest with this person. Because this person was somebody that I used to date. I won't say their name, but I used to date this girl, and got cheated on twice by this girl, and like we all had a friend group that was kind of already together. We like kind of had like a core group, and I guess once we broke up a second time, I guess me back then looked at it like people were choosing her side over mine, and I don't know nowadays if that were to happen, if I would have the same attitude with that. Maybe not, but I know back when that did happen, after after we broke up, I kind of felt like bitter towards like the friend group, because I felt like most everybody still was like hanging out with her, and like I was kind of forgotten about in a way. So it almost seemed like she was being like rewarded for like doing me wrong, and but then like it seemed like maybe people weren't seeing my side. So I know this was all in the past, but this was like, I guess, where I was at the time thinking about it. So it took me a little while to really get over what she did to me. There was like, it was more than just a couple times of being cheated on. It was like just a lot of things where I was just constantly let down by this person, and I just felt like I was just always disappointed, and just felt like she was always, I don't know, just not really being the right girlfriend for me, I guess. So, and I mean, just there's always a reason and a season for people in life. So I definitely wish, her the best. But I guess that was like one big reason why I feel like there was a lot of bitterness between us, because maybe I felt like some of my friends almost felt like they chose her instead of me, and maybe I was not really saying it, but almost trying to make it seem like you had to choose one or the other, and that's not really it's not really fair, because we've already all known each other for all those years. So it's it could be a hard thing to kind of get through. So that was definitely like one person that I definitely had. I say had because it's no longer affecting me, but it affected me for years, probably up until, like, if I'm gonna be honest, like probably like 2020. Like I feel like it lasted like for probably like that whole decade, from 2011 or 12 to 2020. Every time when I thought about like this person or this situation, I just always had not hatred for her, but just kind of just like a negative, I guess, attitude about this person.
Kind of like that person now gets you the ick.
Yeah, so now it just almost seems like this person is basically a ghost to me. But the last time I spoke to this person was right before COVID, and we made peace. So I kind of feel good with where we're at, but we have like no communication with each other.
That's okay too.
Yeah, so
there is a thing called forgiveness, but not having them in your life still.
Yeah, so that's important to point out, because some people may think, that maybe if you forgive someone, that means they're going to come back in your life, and that's not always the case.
Right.
I mean, there are times where you miss that friendship or relationship, but then at the same time, once you really start thinking about it, that it's for the best.
And now it's just like you're thinking, like, did I miss the feeling of the friendship, or did I miss them?
Yeah, and so it could be hard. So,
but it just something like that. It's crazy how you felt like that for years, and to this day, I'm glad that you're kind of like free from the bondage, from all that being caged in bitterness and being hatred against that one person.
Yeah.
But
True.
thank God for living a free life, and being free from the captives, and living a joyful life, and not being bitter towards anybody or anything, because life's short.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why even like not only with our friendship, but with other friendships that I have, I definitely make sure that if I ever have a problem, before it even gets to bitterness, like talk about it instead of bottling it up. So I feel like that's one big part of the like formula that I feel like it can come out with a bad result if you like bottle it in. Then when you talk about it, you're angry, but it's like you're trying not to sound angry, but it's like you can't help it because it's been like in you for a while.
Right.
And then the bitterness comes after that because then you're like, I don't like the way this person spoke to me, so it's like I don't even want to talk to this person, and you kind of leave them alone. So I feel like just trying not to assume right away. That's another thing that I feel like I did.
Yeah, I think a lot of us can do that.
Yeah, or you assume, and then your delivery may come off wrong too.
Right.
So definitely a lot that I've learned from all of that.
And then I think assume is like a really bad formula too, because you assume this and then you actually think that's actually the case, but in reality sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
And that's the part that's where you end up hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, man, I feel so stupid because I thought this was actually the case, but in reality when they said this was not, and I'm like, I feel dumb.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's like you're hurting yourself and you're hurting others in the process too. So it's a lose-lose situation. Like you thought that you were gonna feel better getting it out and saying it all, but then once you get it out, then it's like, oh crap, like why did I say it like that?
Right.
Like if I would have calmed down and like said it in a different tone, like even if you use the same wording, but just like in a more calm tone where you're coming in peace. I'm not coming to fight with my words. Like I think that's something I guess we can all learn from, because I can still even have moments where I may say something and then like immediately it's like, oh crap, like why did I say that? But at least having the awareness is a good thing, like being aware that like crap, that was wrong, instead of like having too much pride and thinking, no, like I'm right. But so I think taking ownership.
Exactly, and that's the best part of being being this kind of person right now. When you've molded to be a better person, is apologizing for your actions that you made a mistake on.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like how you said, prideful and thinking like you're always right, but in reality you're not.
Yeah, some people keep that bitterness going on forever, like with people, because they think that they're right and they didn't have nothing to do with the fall of a friendship or a relationship or even a marriage. So yeah, people always think, like I'm right, you're wrong, and that's the end of it.
And like nowadays, people are just so entitled to that. It's crazy. It's just because people just always get their rise out of it because like, oh, I'm always right, and I don't make mistakes and stuff, but we all make mistakes.
Yeah, we do.
So I mean, there's only one person that doesn't, and that's Jesus Christ himself.
Yeah, amen to that. So yeah, that's a good thing to even point out, because some people really do just need to have a little piece of humble pie and just realize that like none of us are perfect, and it's not weak to admit that you're wrong.
Exactly.
So I think people do not like to admit it. Some people think, oh, well, you're not tough if you admit that you were wrong, or so you have to let your ego come down,
right?
Let your pride down, and people don't like that. There's a lot of like self,
because they feel like that you're a sissy for apologizing, but in reality you're actually being like if you're a guy, you're being a man. If you're a woman, you're being a girl. You're being a woman. You're being the bigger person.
Yeah.
And that's actually a good thing. That I like that in people. When people apologize for their actions they know they made a mistake on, because they know they're real.
Yeah.
Well, I know they're real. So
yeah, I think that's really good.
It's a sign of respect.
Yeah, I think it shows a lot of strength. Yeah, definitely, for people to admit that, like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have said it like that. But some people don't. So that kind of actually leads to my next question. So, people do like to say this phrase that like bitterness is basically like poison. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes, definitely. Bitterness is a poison. It's probably a sign of the devil, more than likely, or evil.
Yeah, it is very poisonous, because like we kind of mentioned, when people like want to keep that pride and want to keep themselves from like making things right with somebody just because they felt like they were right in that situation.
Right.
Like they almost want to just kind of I don't know, I just almost want to kind of have this, I'm here and you're no longer in my life, but I would hate to just have that. And then like, if something were to happen to where you passed away without making things right with somebody, I don't know, I just feel like I would hate to leave this earth knowing that like somebody thinks dirty of me and probably was glad that I died or something like that. I know it's pretty deep, but
That's okay.
but yeah, I think like people, would think that, and then like just even like with the like when it comes back to the poison, it is almost like I've always heard this part where people say bitterness is like you hoping that the other person, like there's like poison, and it's like you're drinking the poison, hoping that they die, but it's like really it's poisoning you. It's making you in a worse situation because it's then it starts affecting you in other areas. I know it definitely affected me for sure whenever I've held bitterness, and because you're not as friendly, you're a little bit more irritable, and you just kind of become a little bit, you go through like a depression kind of state.
Yeah, you're a different person.
Yeah, it changes who you used to be. So it just always shows that it's never too late to make things right with somebody.
Yeah.
You can always, if you're watching this and you have like a years long of problems with somebody, it's never too late to make things right, because you never know that that maybe meant to be that you're supposed to be friends with that person, but because of one little petty situation kind of messed that up. Or I know even like with reality TV, like I know like people like to watch the entertainment of people fighting and stuff like that. Sometimes they can be funny, like watching some of those, but then you think that like these people are real people though, that film these reality shows, and they have this problems, a lot of it probably for entertainment, but it's like I don't know how it doesn't eat people up on the inside, like having problems with somebody, because I feel like I'm terrible whenever I have.
It's like high school.
Yeah, it is basically like high school. It's like I can't imagine just holding something in, like a problem with somebody,
Right. Nowadays.
and constantly finding ways to bash this person. It's like I can't.
I don't know. I think it's because they feel like they have that power, and they feel like they can constantly do it because they're that person that can get away with it. But I mean, in the reality, do you really feel like that you're winning? Like, I feel like you win when you don't care for other people's drama and feed up off that. Like, you're living a free, caring less about what other people think about you and stuff like this. And you are winning when you're like molded into a better person than you are now.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if people want to keep feeding off that negative energy, then let them have it.
Yeah, I think that you make a good point. Some people do think that like being better and like trying to hold something against somebody is like they're thinking that they're winning the game, because it's like you're not gonna like, oh well, I'm gonna show you you're gonna be without me and you're gonna wish you had me in your life, and really you're making yourself feel worse about it long term, because you're without a friend that probably, or without a family member, or without a spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend that you cared about, that they're no longer in your life, and you're gonna hold that bitterness, making it seem like look at you, you don't have me in your life, and you're missing out on all this stuff because I'm not in your life. But then really, I feel like for me, personally, it would be hard to live that kind of life, like feeling like I'm trying to show off my life once that person that did me wrong is out of my life. Now, I know there are some people that are not meant to always be in your life, like we mentioned earlier. There's some people that come in for a season, but I don't know, I just feel like if somebody did something kind of petty towards you, like I feel like those are easier to get over, like we said, depending on the situation. But yeah, I feel like no matter what, when you have bitterness in you, you're losing the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's that's good to remember, and I think it's a good thing to remind myself, because I even still get into problems with people, or an argument. It usually gets resolved pretty quick, but I feel like it used to take longer.
Right, like how we both said, it's depending how how much we've matured as a person.
Yeah.
It's all relied on strength and like how you are and how you handle stuff and all that.
Yeah, and I think certain situations in life, like when you see the reality of like how hard life can be with like certain situations that happens, it makes you look at things differently, and it makes you look at people differently. Like with cancer, like if cancer comes into you or your family's life, it kind of makes you look at things differently, like realizing that like life is too short to hold bitterness and like against someone, and or even if they're, it may not even cancer, it could be worse than that. It could be like a death in the family. Like you may even realize that too, that life is too short, and that like you never know how much time you have left. Like you could be this could be our last year on earth. I mean, you just never know. So you just want to you want to live each day as if it's your last, and you don't want to have the last, if this is your last year of your life, to live it with hate and bitterness and just having a cold heart. Because I just feel like that's not, like as Christians, I feel like that's not even what a Christ follower should live their life in that way. It talks so much about forgiveness in the Bible.
Exactly. It says it so many times in the Bible.
Yeah. So and then I was just thinking about how Easter's coming up. Like the biggest like forgiveness of sins happened, on Easter, or Good Friday, when Christ died for our sins, and that was like the forgiveness for our sins. And I think that this is a good time to kind of talk about this topic, because with Easter coming around the corner, you start thinking about forgiveness and just how bitterness is just something that we shouldn't hold on to for too long, or really not at all, but like get rid of it as fast as possible, because it is making you worse and it's poisoning you.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I guess moving on into my final question, let's talk about maybe some more positive stuff. So what are some good things about letting go of this bitterness and like forgiving someone, even if this person never apologizes for what they did to you?
Good question. I guess just like I said, just depending on like how you handle the situation. Like if you know that situation is tough, then you can overcome it again.
Yeah, that is good. Just just kind of realizing that like as you get older, that you get this more maturity and strength, and like we said, you can kind of have like humbling moments where like you realize you can overcome bitterness and you can forgive a little bit easier. So I think that's really good. I think for me, when I was thinking about this question, I think it's some good things about like letting go of it is I do feel like it brings a lot more peace in your life. You're a lot more happier in life, and there's a lot of, I feel like, let me try to think how to phrase this, like a new chapter, maybe like closing a book on one part of your life and like opening another book.
Closure.
Yeah, so I think a closure, I think that's a big one, is just having closure from a situation that happened years ago, and just not letting it affect you, in the new part of your life. I know like a lot of people like to, at the end of the year, make things right with people, then start the new year on a clean slate. But it doesn't have to happen at the end of the year. You can start a new week, a new month, a new day, really, trying to make things right. So I think peace and closure are two really big ones that come out of it, because I'm sure there have been people in my life that did me wrong and like never apologized, and And well, one situation did happen like that a few years ago. Somebody kind of did me wrong. It was during like COVID year, and there's somebody that like me and my family's close to, and this person was kind of saying some crazy stuff, and it kind of led to where it was about to get like physical, because it was a lot of verbal back and forth. But one day it was about to get like really physical with this person, and it took almost a year to make things right with this person. But in between that a year, I feel like like I had bitterness toward this person because I would rethink and would replay the situation in my head, especially that day where things were almost getting physical. But I still had to remember to like I forgive this person, even though they haven't apologized about what they did. But they did eventually apologize. So there have been situations where I have had to forgive someone for doing me wrong, even if they didn't actually say it. Even if it took 11 months or a year. But I guess it's better late than never.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think I love that. I think it's a good final question to have. Like just as we're closing out on this topic, just thinking about just putting burying the problems, like just keeping it there, and just letting it rest in peace, and basically, and then living in peace.
Exactly.
For the rest of your life. So
Exactly.
So yeah, I know like with our situations, I know that a lot of it was crazy, but yeah, I'm glad that we've matured and we've gotten through it, and glad that you're still in my life.
Same.
So yeah, I definitely think that you were a good one to do this episode with, because I think with both of us, we definitely had bitterness towards each other like over the years, especially in our early 20s. There was a lot of bitterness just due to immaturity on all sides, and
Right.
People that came in between and all that. But
Letting small stuff bother us.
yeah, so yeah, we just now know to not even don't even sweat the small stuff, and
Exactly.
and to just whenever we do have to talk about something, just we know how to go about talking about it.
Exactly.
So
Come to a direct approach.
there you go. Yeah, I think that's a good way to end this topic. So yeah, I definitely appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I definitely loved talking about this, and everybody, I hope that you enjoyed this episode, whether you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this on any of the podcast streaming platforms. I definitely appreciate your support there. And I also do appreciate your support if you're on Instagram and you follow me on there at Not Your Average Joel Podcast. So I definitely, always appreciate your support any and every way possible. So anyways, everybody, I will look forward to discussing more with y'all on the next episode of Not Your Average Joel, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye.
Thank you, everybody that took the time to listen to this episode of Not Your Average Joel. My podcast is available not only on YouTube, but also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. I also have an Instagram page where you can see outstanding moments, behind the scenes, and even a funny moment or two from each episode at Not Your Average Joel Podcast. If you want to get in contact with me, then my Instagram page is probably the best way to do so through direct messaging. I appreciate any kind of support that you have given to this channel, whether you are a guest or a listener to this podcast. Once again, I thank y'all so much, and I look forward to sharing more of my life with y'all on the next episode of Not Your Average Joel. Goodbye.